Alright, let's get the show on the road.
Taking off.
Alright, good afternoon everyone. Today I'm taking the DJI M30T out for a little spin, a nice little training run, just to play with it just a little bit. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We got a lot of sunlight, so I just want to see what this thermal is going to do, especially in areas with a lot of high water. See what that reflectivity looks like. See if we can discern any type of targets that might be in the swamp, like deer, coyotes, those sorts of things. So what you're seeing right now is exactly what I'm seeing on my RC controller. And it's going to look sort of like a fighter jet type thing. And this is like the FPV type view. However, what I can do to make this a little less bumpy for you, I can switch it over to the gimbal view, or the camera view. So we just click on this, and magically everything's a lot smoother. And I can also adjust the tilt of the gimbal. Everything looks really nice and smooth now, so that flight's not quite as jerky. You don't feel like you're in the Blair Witch Project running through the woods or something like that. Anyway, this particular drone that I'm using, the DJI M30T, is a workhorse of a drone. It's good for doing inspection work, and also excellent for doing search and rescue, search and recoveries, and among other things, because it has thermal capabilities. It can do a lot of these cool jobs that the traditional drones, the cinematic type drones, simply can't do. And it is a workhorse. It really has a lot of power, and you can feel it when you're flying it. So as you can see right now, we're sort of just cruising around about 48 feet above the ground. At that speed, I mean, we're cooking it right now, about 33, 34 miles an hour into a heavy wind. That's a decent wind. Yeah, let's go play with the thermals. So on the RC controller, I can manipulate the camera sensors and choose which one I want to do based on the task that I'm trying to do. So let's start right here. This is a good spot. So on the controller, I can initiate the thermal camera just by simply clicking it. Now what you're going to notice is looks absolutely crazy. It's not what your traditional thermal looks like. It's either black hot, white hot, or whatever. So what I can do is click up top, and I have a selection that I can choose from. Now depending on the situation and the circumstances in which you're flying, you're going to probably have to toggle between different ones to see which one works best for you. At this time of day, very bright sunny day, warm summer day, you're going to be limited in your choices. That's why we like flying some of thermal missions and jobs at nighttime, unless we're doing some sort of like solar farm surveys and among other things. And I'll explain why here in a second. So what you're seeing right now is the iron red selection for the thermals. We can change that up. Let's change it to white hot. So anything that has any type of elevated temperature or is radiating heat is going to show with a lighter white signature. And of course, with this drone, I can fly the drone that way. And if you look at the bottom right of the screen, you can still see the FPV view, where it's all jerky flying around. And then on the bottom left, you can see sort of like a topographic type, Google Maps type, view of where I'm flying. And you can change that to like a satellite view if you upload the maps or you're connected via the internet. However, I actually particularly prefer the topographic type maps that show any type of topography, line, like contours, different types of waterways like rivers, lakes, and that sort of thing, or even like blue line creeks and streams or ditches that you wouldn't see on a satellite map because of canopy, but you'll see them on the map and you know that they're there. So here we are. what we're looking at is an area, a few that I had, several months ago. It was cut for thinning some pine stands. So if we switch back to our regular camera view, you can see there's a lot of logs and things on the ground, that sort of thing. But we can you can zoom in if we choose to do so. And adjust the camera. Go back to thermals. Back this out. Zoom into 2 power. Wide angle, which I like just fine. But we can zoom into 5 power. Zoom in into 10 power. 20. 40. And then really get tight in there up to 200 power. It's really cool. So the advantage of this is if you're doing any type of inspection work, you don't necessarily have to get right up next to the object that you're trying to look at. And this is really good if you're doing any type of survey work around transmission lines, towers, and that sort of thing. You need to zoom in, but you don't want to get too close because you don't want to risk hitting it, destroying that particular object, or you also don't want to risk your drone. And the issue with some things, especially with like transmission towers and all that stuff, they're giving up a lot of electrical interference. And in those circumstances, you could potentially lose control of your drone because these drones are controlled through with electromagnetic waves. I mean, that's just radio waves. And you get in a situation where you lose control of your drone, it can be catastrophic. People could get hurt, property could get damaged, and there is a lot of liability that comes with that. And so you just don't want to get in that situation to begin with. But we'll swing back around, nice and slowly, and look at the deck area again. All right, so here's a different view. I'm gonna sort of swing her around to the side a little bit. Back her up. Another thing I'm trying to do is not face towards the sun while doing my drone work. And particularly with the thermal stuff, because it'll completely wash it out and it could potentially damage your thermal sensor. So here we are again. We're looking at the slash pile, so we can zoom in a little bit with our thermals as well, very similar to that of the camera systems, all the way up to 20 power. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, depending on the situation, you may have to select a certain type of thermal image to enhance the target or the object that you're trying to observe. So this was white hot. I'm going to switch to black hot. Okay, completely, it's sort of like the inverse of what was just shown. And switch to tint. I've seen some guys use this. I particularly don't. I primarily use either the white hot or the black hot. But I have come to appreciate also the iron red, and there's also hot iron, which is kind of interesting, and it's actually shown some beneficial use in the swamp area where we have a little bit of standing water. Well, not a little bit; it's actually a lot of standing water, and it works out pretty well. I'm going to switch back to the zoom camera. And we're going to tilt the gimbal back up. I'm going to go for a little flight. Oh, I see the water tower in the background. That's actually another application. This particular drone is great for using and doing water tower inspections. Sure beats the old way out to do it. Getting a nice little pan of the Lumberton skyline, you can actually see the hospital in the background where my father worked for about 40 years. And here we are, we're coming up on Highway 211. And it's gas station, funeral home, and my father's favorite store, Agri Supply, right there. Alright, let me give you an example. Say we're in a situation where we need to observe a scene, sort of triage it for law enforcement or some sort of emergency management. Or say like a structure fire. Well, sometimes those folks are not able to see where the hottest areas are, or the areas that are radiating the most heat. So what we can do is we can switch to thermals. And then, as you can see here, it's only a 2-power zoom here. So what we can do is zoom in just a little bit more. But as you can see on this parking lot, the white hot sort of washes out some of the resolution. So in this circumstance, what I typically prefer to do is switch over to black hot. And perhaps it's an eye trick where the asphalt color is more closely that of asphalt. And of course, you can clearly see the vehicle moving from right to left here, trying to either get around these vehicles or find a gas pump to pull up to. And there's another vehicle going from the right to left as well. Another thing to remember, thermals, they're not x-rays. I mean, you can't see through things with thermals. It's what you see is what you get. And if you are, or a person is behind a tree canopy that's thick where you can't see it, the thermal vision will not see it either. And that's something that's for military applications, law enforcement applications, that really need to be considered when using such a drone in those situations or circumstances. You can see that person, they're sort of walking around. It's interesting. What's even more interesting, that person appeared somewhat with a white image, indicating that their body heat, the radiation that they are emitting, is of lower temperature than that of the parking lot. And that makes perfect sense, because if you went and put your hand on top of that asphalt right now, it'll probably burn your hand, or at least you don't want to keep it there for very long. It'll be very uncomfortable. So this person you see walking in their car, the body temperature is roughly 97 to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's going to be a lesser temperature than that of what's around it. So in that situation, the Black Hawk was able to pick them up fairly well. Switching to this, so the iron kind of washes it out a little bit. But this is a popular system that's used, or a setting that's used for doing solar farm inspections, that sort of thing. It all depends on what the client wants, what their preference is, and the circumstances in which gives the best resolution or detectability. Alright, so I'm going to switch back, and we're going to get away from the gas station before anyone freaks out wondering what in the world a drone's doing out here floating around. Because this drone, it's a fairly large drone, and it's very powerful, and given all that power that it has, you can hear it. it's fairly loud, but it's a working drone. It's not meant for any type of cinematic type stuff. It's not something that you would take on a vacation somewhere, or to shoot on a documentary, that sort of thing. I mean, it's a purpose-driven drone. Tilt the gun back up nice and slow. Alright. Another thing that you're going to notice with this particular drone, it allows the use of RTK positioning, and this is vital. As both a hydrographic surveyor and aerial surveyor, I do not fly without some form of RTK, or position correction systems, or air correction systems. And what that does, it increases the accuracy and precision of the drone itself, and also the products will be georeferenced with a much greater degree of accuracy and precision when compared to just flying in normal mode. So here we are back at the slash bubble. What I'm going to do is check out the RTK positioning stuff right now. So what we're doing, what you see is that I have my RTK positioning, and it has a connected sat. That's a very strong signal, and I'm recording 39 satellites right now. 39 different satellites. And the system that I'm using is called a real-time network virtual reference system, RTN VRS. So what I do, I have for North Carolina, what I have is a subscription to the North Carolina Geodetic Survey. It's a one-time fee of about $500. And what it allows me to do is I can connect to virtual reference stations through the internet. And through the internet, I received error-corrected data, which corrects my GPS position and really makes it nice and tight. And what I mean by that is, with using just differential GPS, I'll be sub-meter, sure, half meter maybe, but with the error correction stuff, with the RTK or the VRS systems, I'm able to really shrink that position to centimeter, maybe 2 centimeters, and that's a static position. Of course, there will be other errors that could be possibly introduced from various variables, and that's especially true in my hydrographic surveying when I'm doing sonar work and looking for shipwrecks, pipelines, fiber optic cables, and all kinds of other things, and maybe sometimes things that go boom. So it's very important to know the exact positioning of where things are, or at least have it to where you can narrow it down and find it very quickly and very easily. Another advantage for my survey work is also when I'm making 2D orthophoto mosaics or making three-dimensional photogrammetry models. It's very important that your imagery have the highest level of positional accuracy possible. That way it stitches together a little bit better, and the product for the client is all that much better. It is possible to do that with, I mean, you can make these types of products with standard cinematic type drones and stuff, but you're not going to be able to do that very well. You won't have that degree of accuracy and professionalism that you should have. All right, so to look at the way I have it set up for the North Carolina Geodetic Survey, I saved a custom network RTK system. You can see, I got my account number there. That's the intrip address and all that stuff. And my password, I have it, blacked out so you can't see it and use my stuff. But anyway, I'm able to use this profile anytime I'm flying my drone. And I use this for this particular drone. I use it for my Mavic 3 Enterprise when I'm doing my surveying and mapping. And I also use the same system when I'm on the water. And it just works very well. And I use a mobile Wi-Fi. It's a little Inseego mobile Wi-Fi card. I have it through my Verizon account. And it provides the necessary data through the internet to provide those error corrections, and it's a steady stream. I've seen people do this. I've seen people use their cell phones for such things. However, I necessarily don't want to do that because the amount of data that's coming through for the error correction, I think, I'm sure some of the phones can handle it, but I just didn't want to risk it, and so I wanted a dedicated Wi-Fi service or Wi-Fi, instrument that can provide that error correction data with uninterrupted without any issues. I don't have to worry about somebody calling and messing something up, or some app on my phone screwing up and causing a problem. Alright, let's find some water. Shouldn't be hard. There we go. Alright. As you can see, we got a nice little bit of water right here. Let's see what it looks like in the various infrared, well, the thermal modes. And as you can see here, that's the run of the swamp. But you can also, to the right of the screen, you can also see where it's definitely full. Plenty of water in there from the tropical storm. So we switch to thermals. Switch to white hot. Okay. And something that needs to be noted, and you can see this little indicator that's showing a temperature rating. That should not ever be relied upon. Every thermal drone, when you're trying to gauge temperature, it needs to be calibrated. And the way you have to do that, you have to calibrate it based on the type of material that you think you're going to be surveying, or that we're going to be inspecting. I mean, what this is really doing, what these thermal drones really do, they detect radiation. They detect radiating, like, well, of course it's heat, but they're just detecting radiation, and then it allows you to see objects that are causing that radiation, and that needs to be remembered. So we're saying that's 29.8 degrees Celsius. Maybe it may be, but that has to be verified. All right, switch to black hot. Just based on the appearance, I can tell that is water down there, but yeah, it's not the best. Like, the area around it's kind of washed out. If you're looking for something down there, you may see it, or you may not. The tint, that's not really doing anything for us. Iron red, not so much. Hot iron. See, that was when I was speaking earlier about the hot iron. How it's kind of it works a little bit better in the areas that have a little bit of standing water. And I think you can see that. It's interesting. It's worth looking into. I'll definitely play with it later in the evening when the sun's not bearing down on us and things start to cool down, and you can really see things like other animals. Hopefully no humans walking around out here. That'd be very uncomfortable for them. But you'll be able to see some of the animals like deer, maybe some coyotes, walking around out here, and then we can really see how well this particular setting works in detecting their radiation. And of course Arctic, I don't really use that. It looks nice, but no. So we'll switch back, and we will reset the gimbal to look straight ahead, nice and easy, and start making my way back home. According to the controller, I've got about 8 minutes, because I'm moving now, so I'm sucking up battery. Let's switch back to this. It's a whole different perspective. Another nice thing about this particular drone is the fact that when you're recording data, when you're recording video, or even the other imagery, you can have it where it takes the same imagery in both wide angle, your zoom, and thermal imaging all at the same time. So if you ever have a question about anything, if you're ever concerned, or you think you saw something but you can't remember, you can always refer back to the other data sets, and it's all time stamped, so you should be able to easily recognize it and do a comparative analysis. Alright, well, I'm going to take this thing in home. Alright, well, I appreciate all of you flying with me.
Return to home.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed listening to my rambling. Normally, I don't I don't make videos where I have narration and stuff. I might do in the future. I've got a couple of the DJI mics and all that stuff. But this particular video is recorded using the RC Pro controller itself. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's a great tool, and I think this is great for, as I mentioned before, doing inspections, among other things. So as we're landing, you get to admire my grass cutting skills. But also, the yard's kind of dry right there. But let's see how this thing goes. Looks like it's off a little bit. Maybe that's move it to the right just a little bit. Oh, move it over a little bit. Should be correcting. There we go. So it's good to make sure, because these things, I mean, they're machines, they're not humans, so they can make mistakes. So there we go. So a nice little training flight. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you on the next time.